Today is June 26th, 2015. This is the Unseen Podcast, episode number 12. I am James Garrison, your host for this episode. This is the unscripted, unedited, Creative Commons, open participation spin-off of the Wow Signal podcast. Please go to wowsignalpodcast.com for more information. If you'd like to be in the panel pool and participate in some of our conversations, feel free to send an email to unseenpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, you can go to unseenpodcast.com for more information. And tonight's panel we have, and tonight I shall let them introduce themselves. First with Andrew.
Hey folks, I'm Andrew Boyter. I was on, I guess, a couple weeks ago now, but yeah, broadcasting here from the mountains of North Carolina. Good to be here.
And we have John.
Buckfield. I'm a project manager, science enthusiast, history and philosophy of science, and I am coming to the podcast from Patagonia, Chile.
And he wins our long distance award tonight. Okay, and we will possibly be joined later by Mike Mongo. Tonight's topic is going to be primarily about Starship Congress 2015. And for everybody who has either been listening for a while or has just decided to join us, we do have a drinking game in effect. We do as always, if you're of age, recommend a good beer. The rules are, it is one drink for the following. Someone mentions or promotes another podcast, which happens quite often. Doctor Who, Star Wars, Star Trek, or any other kind of sci-fi reference. It has to be a real sci-fi, not Dianetics or, something along those lines. If somebody goes on to a wildly different tangent with no segue, listen sharp and you will know when this happens. And anytime a bad pun is made, and just for anybody who may be driving later on, I may exempt myself from that rule. A large drink, or swig if you live in Oklahoma, goes for any time the language is going to go beyond PG-13. So if we say dang, heck, hell, that's fine. We go much beyond that, then you can take a pretty good drink. And anytime somebody goes on a rant. So, as this was, I believe, John's suggestion for a topic, would you care to tell people what the Starship Congress is?
Sure. Starship Congress is Icarus Interstellar meeting of diverse set. I think Icarus. I joined Icarus a few years ago, and to my assessment, they have the most diverse group of projects and people, and they're all volunteer, which makes them very very stable in terms of longevity. They've been around for a long time and active. I really like them, and they started doing these congresses. Every 2 years, they have a get-together where a number of different efforts. They've got a portfolio of projects that you can check on their website at icarusinterstellar.org. And there's also details there on the upcoming Starship Congress. It's going to take place at Drexel University. And the subtitle of Starship Congress 2015 is Interstellar Hackathon. And I had been pushing for a while for paradigm hacks because my focus is on development of faster than light technology, and in order to do that, we have to get our physics straightened out. So I'm pushing for development of consistent mathematical models that accurately represent or accurately and consistently represent what we observe of the universe and reality. This has been taken over from the physics realm and also put into, it was kind of adapted into more traditional hackathon events at the Starship Congress with most of the teams at within Icarus are more concerned with traditional engineering projects, orbital dynamics, sail ships, microsats, you name it. There's and then there's an exotic physics group. So all of those will be represented at the Congress. It's taking place September 4th and 5th in Philadelphia. And that's the overview. More details on the website.
Okay, so it's kind of similar to like paleontologists have a convention every year where they get together and discuss new discoveries, new processes, things like that.
Yep, and there will be a lot of that kind of interaction. But one of the things that they want to do is actually have working sessions where people are hacking together new technologies, new ideas. For the math work, I'm planning on this Congress being a planning session for math development to take place in 2017.
Okay, so it's kind of a combination of maker fair and I was wanting to say science fair, but
I guess that would be a fair comment. Okay, I'm gonna count that as a bad pun and have a swig of my Hertol.
Salud.
Salud.
All right. So, okay, so it's now you said it's primarily volunteer driven.
Well, not just primarily. It's everyone involved is all volunteer. It's that's good and bad. It's good from a stability standpoint. It's bad in that sometimes for administrative work that's difficult. It's hard to get effective progress on stuff that people need to do, but it's kind of boring or difficult, and so you can't really push a volunteer to put in 10 hours on something that's really hard, but needs to be done on a short timeline.
Yeah. So it's now there are people who do research, who do presentations of this.
Oh yeah, at these events, the people who come together are pursuing. Now, is there any penalty for people swigging when the rules have not stipulated that they can or must?
No.
Okay. All right, so I should feel free.
Yeah.
The I was so distracted by the beer swigging option that now I don't remember what the main topic was. That sounds like another penalty.
There we go.
It may be, yeah.
So, Andrew, add that one in. Anytime
we're talking about volunteers and what we can and can't do.
Talking about people doing presentations of research. You were talking about more exotic physics where they were trying to work around the faster than light problem, which, given the energy constraints and masses involved, that's going to take probably a whole entire new type of physics just to get around that.
Well, that's true, but it's generally acknowledged within the physics community that we need an entirely new set. Well, I'm not going to say an entirely new. For example, like when Einstein came along, we didn't throw out Newtonian mechanics. Newtonian mechanics is as accurate as you need for just about anything you're going to do. And one of the things that I like to point out about how these scientific theories work is that for most things in life, it's optimal for us to assume that the Earth is the center. It's much easier for just about anything you're going to do to say the sun comes up over here on the horizon, even though you know from a certain standpoint that's not really the most objective perspective that you could adopt, but it's efficient, it makes sense, and for anything that we care about, 99.99% of the time, it's a better theory. And another example of that would be we like to make fun of people we call flat earthers. But the fact is that anytime we want to bring up Google Maps and use it, unless you're showing it on a holographic display or something, if you're showing it on a flat screen, you're using a flat Earth model, and your brain is translating this flat image into a representation that you can use. And that's the important thing. These models that we use, the question from my field, the project management field, is it effective? Is it good for what you need it to do? And so from that standpoint, and what we know about the way science develops, we can tell a lot about the kinds of things that physicists should be looking for to solve their problems, which they say need a revolution, because quantum mechanics and general relativity don't work together, along with there's other anomalies. And so they need that revolution, and then the faster than light people need a revolution. So what I say is, let's bring those people together with experts in how scientific revolutions happen, and hopefully something productive will result.
Okay, I was looking at the website and I'd seen that the 2013 was basically the Starship Congress was broken down into each day they were talking about their plans for 20 years, then 50 years, and 100 years on out.
Mm-hmm.
This one here seems to be primarily workshops more than, it says, let me see, the hackathon will be built around workshops and punctuated by speakers from deep space science community. So it looks like it's going to be primarily, and a call for papers also, which means there will be a few presentations.
Yeah, typically there's for most conferences, there's a no paper, no podium rule, so that your material can be vetted prior to getting up and boring a big audience with it, or actually offending them. I've been at events where people were upset by the topic being kind of pseudoscience.
You want to make sure that if you're going to be bored, at least it's accurate science.
Yeah.
Okay, that was gonna be a whole bottle right there if I'd said that.
Hey, James, are you getting low audio from Andrew?
A little bit.
Okay.
I can boost a little bit here.
Okay.
That sounds better.
Let's give that a try.
Yeah.
It's much improved here.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Yeah. With my ears, I don't know if it's actually just the deafness and old age, or if I'm actually hearing what I thought I heard. So, okay. Let me see.
So one of the interesting things that I was looking at this, I spent some time looking at all the Starship Congress stuff, but I like the idea of the hackathon. Usually with the hackathons that are focused on, especially the ones that are focused on computer security, you lay out a whole bunch of problems and say, all right, guys, go in there and see what you can do. Hack away at these things and see if you can beat it. And it's kind of it's really a crowdsourcing security type model. for the computer security ones. So I like the idea of applying that to other fields, and just saying, here we go. Here's the problems that we're facing in this field, particularly interstellar travel in this case, and saying, well, here's a bunch of smart people. Pick a problem and start hacking away at it. I think that's an interesting model for that, and bringing people together, I think, is really important to doing that in one physical location. There's a lot of cool stuff that happens when you have smart people all in the same room working on a problem together.
Yeah, and they get to interact freely and don't have the same constraints that you would virtually.
Right. Or it is at an academic institution, but in a more formal academic setting. There's probably some other things that you can do here that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do if you have 5 professors in a department working on their own research.
Definitely.
I say it looks like they're, like you were saying, they're trying to get a bunch of different people together from different, just physicists. They're trying to get engineers. They're trying to get. It's very similar, I think, to how kind of NASA got put together originally.
Well, there's a heavy NASA presence at these events, and also some very innovative people. If you go to the Icarus Interstellar website, the latest blog post is Rachel Armstrong, who is heavily into adaptive and almost living architecture. I think probably there will be genetic engineering for structures, but she's very big on kind of modeling living systems in architecture, so that it's self-repairing, that it collects its own energy, that it is not a. She points out that in cities, what cities do is they lay out something that's completely alien to the biosphere and largely a dead zone in terms of being able to just sustain humans. It's we have buildings that we have to serve instead of they serve us, and they're non-interactive, and she's very big into taking this sort of perspective that is that I think is very well. It's one of those rule-breaking, paradigm changes perspectives that leads to revolutionary new models and new hypotheses. And so she'll be one of the probably a plenary speaker. I'm not sure exactly what she's scheduled for. Anyway, her work is really good, and there's a number of people. Most of the stuff is very traditional with the aerospace. When you mentioned NASA, it made me think about the aerospace aspects, which most of the research is involved in. Traditional propulsion. There's this guy named Zach Fayes, who is a real sharp younger guy, and he's working on this thing called Project Voyager, which they're doing a lot of high precision orbital mechanics calculations. There's traditional propulsion, like you were talking about. For me, I think that most of these propulsion things, sail ships, and these other concepts that are being pursued within the different volunteer groups, for me, these are mostly in-system technologies. The relativistic speeds, assuming that you could generate the kind of energy and using traditional propulsion methods, let's assume you could sustain 1g acceleration using something. You'd have to sustain that for years. To me, crossing the intervening distance between point A and point B is probably not going to work. Keeping people alive, traditional propulsion is probably not going to work, I don't think. But if that's the only way, and a journey that takes thousands of years or even centuries is not really what we would consider travel normally. That would not be something that we would call travel. We would call it like a
family
you know,
vacation.
well, it's a long-term migration or something. Yes, colonization over centuries.
Indeed. Yeah, it's why they're looking. Some groups are looking at doing the colony ships,
Yeah.
the generation. Now, something you said a little bit ago kind of intrigued me on the adaptive architecture.
Hmm.
You said that she's kind of looking at genetic engineering which is making me think of Farscape and the Leviathan ship. But
Well,
Frank,
I don't know that she's. I've sort of added that in as a society and a side. I can't really vouch for whether or not
okay.
she's looking into that, but that's my read on where the natural progression of her kind of ideas would go.
Yeah. Well, see, I would think that using nanotech, using
Oh, wait a
nano,
minute. You said
would be
Farscape, so
more.
that's a dream.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, and I'm going to follow that up with a Next Generation reference. Are either of you guys Next Gen fans?
Yeah.
I've watched a little bit, not much.
Okay, there was an episode kind of later in the series called Tin Man. Anybody remember that?
Vaguely.
It was a
Familiar.
living ship. Its crew had
Okay.
died, and there was this kind of troubled, highly evolved telepath. He was what's that race that
Betazoid.
Deanna Troy was? Beta Z. That's it. He was a Beta Z, kind of born telepathic instead of like developing his skills during adolescence, and it made him a basket case. And he was a first contact specialist with really strange alien creatures. He goes off and meets this thing, and it turns out that it's a very lonely ship because there was some accident and its crew was lost. And it was super sad. It had been wandering around, ready to kill itself near a supernova. And so that was I thought that was a great idea that they had kind of played around with. But I think that the idea of engineering buildings that can provide what we need, they can do. I mean, if we can get our genetic engineering down, we could have buildings that collect. Their surfaces are plant-like. They take the oxygen that or the carbon dioxide that we exhale and respirate that, making naturally fresh air for our interiors. They can route in light. These ideas that she's exploring are really I really think they're the way to go.
I can see that,
Yeah,
but I
looks
would
like she
think
has
that we would be. Go ahead.
I was just going to say she's involved with the TED Talks. She's part of that thing, so I'm going to have to go watch some of hers. And she sounds really interesting. Not just from it sounds interesting for application to cities and to buildings and the way we live here, but even more so to how do we apply this stuff to interstellar travel? How do we put this stuff together with a ship or a ship of some kind, interstellar travel that supports us rather than us having to do all of the support on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and living systems are good at that kind of thing.
Yeah, and a system like that would be good for a generational ship too.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I was thinking nanotech would be probably more suitable. You were talking about repairing a structure, doing things like that. I think controlled nanotech would probably be a little bit better suited for that, because if you're relying on an organic system, and this is coming from someone who's had his share of cuts and scrapes and whatnot, you can't always rely on the body to repair itself in the exact same way it was before. So if you're on if you're on a ship and it takes structural damage, waiting for a biological system to repair the damage, may not be a good idea. But if you have a nanite shell, you can release, several billion nanites to an area, and they can pull in what they need and affect the repairs that way. But on the inside of the ship, basically think of it like a large insect. You've got the hard shell on the outside made up of nanotech, and the inside is the living structure.
Well, I think there's a lot to be said for that. I tend to sort of see biological, like DNA and cells and such. I kind of look at those as nanotech, because to me the difference is, well, the difference is we haven't really got machines that are good at building up DNA strands from scratch. We don't have them yet, but I think that's going to come, and then we will build up DNA strands or something. And to me, I feel like, well, you can call them nanites, or you could call them platelets, or you could call them whatever, but the function of them, there's some kind of special thing that is responsible for stitching together broken bones. When you break a bone, there's some kind of a special cell that's involved in knitting the bone back together. And I think if you had like a reservoir of those kind of things, as nanites or whatever, if you took a meteor strike or something big and catastrophic to your ship, that seems like a good way to me to get yourself back, get your ship whole again. Of course, the problem is if you lose a bunch of stuff in a collision, the problem with space is that there's a lot of it, and the scarcest thing is building materials.
Yeah, which would make the asteroid mining a very beneficial business venture, honestly, to be for us to look into at the same time.
Have you ever been to one of these presentations or seen these by the Deep Space Industries and Planetary Resources?
I haven't personally.
I always, when I first heard about this, I thought this idea of mining asteroids was absolute crap. And I went to a presentation by Chris Lewicki with that opinion. And I thought, this guy's resume sounds pretty good, but he's spouting this idea that cannot work. And part of the reason that I had that belief was because I had thought something very similar to the lines of a paper that I read that proved that their idea could not work. And the justification for this was, the guy said, look, here's the economics of it. Let's say that there's an asteroid out there that's 100 meters in diameter and it is made of absolutely pure gold. Now, there is no such asteroid, but let's assume that that's a best case scenario and we want to recover that asteroid. Could you do it economically? 100 meters of solid gold, return it to Earth. And he ran the numbers and he said, you couldn't do it. It wouldn't be worth it. And this guy had discounted like any effects of depressing the market. Hey, Mike. Mike Mongo is joining us.
As promised.
Man.
From Key West, Florida.
Live in person.
Welcome.
Good to see you, Mike.
You guys, can I tell you? I have to tell you. You don't believe what happened to me. I'm over at a person's house who's just this nondescript figure who's a friend of somebody, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, that's a nice piece on the wall. And they're like, oh, do you like that? And I said, yeah, is it real? Yeah. And all of a sudden he's bringing out Picassos. I've had one of those crazy phenomenal moments where all of reality. I started crying. I couldn't even believe it. Like, are these real? It was just one of the reality is so crazy, man.
Well, we'll forgive you for being late because you got to see Picasso's.
Oh my Google. I'm blown away. I'm sorry for missing out earlier. How's the podcast been going tonight?
It's been pretty interesting. We've gotten the drinking game established fairly well.
What? Drinking? You can drink a podcast? That works?
We're gonna find out.
The rules are posted in the chat window.
I bet this is a lot of fun since Paul's not here.
I mean, just do whatever we want.
Oh, Mike, you always say that. Why are you always giving Paul such a bad time?
It's like having your dad around.
Well, I guess that makes me daddy today.
Wow, that's kind of hot. Hey, it's marriage equality day, man.
At least somebody thinks so.
It is marriage equality day. This is a momentous occasion. Yes, sir. Yeah. Even
anyway, I was just talking about my conversion of my opinion on planetary resources business model.
You're no longer an atheist. You're welcome to the team.
I'm a true believer in planetary resources business model now.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's cool.
As opposed to before, where I was very dismissive.
Are you talking about planetary society or planetary resources?
Planetary resources.
Which one had the spaceship funded? The light sail.
Oh, that's
society.
Yeah, that's Bill Nye and Planetary Society.
They broke $1 million.
Really?
So you guys didn't know this? You guys didn't fund it? Don't admit that in the podcast. Don't admit that.
I'm lucky. I'm been lucky to fund myself.
Let's look. Kickstarter light sail. Let me look at this. It is 241,000.
That's impressive.
23,000 backers. Bill Nye is the science guy.
Yeah. And Mike, I believe you just hit rule 3 on the drinking game.
I'm not playing any game that It sounds scary. Hey,
Doctor Who, sci-fi.
No, it's the someone goes on a wildly different tangent.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. You know what? I want you to know that I don't really think of Paul as a dad figure. He's more like a next-door neighbor.
Who doesn't keep his dog off your lawn?
No, he's your next-door neighbor who's a NASA scientist who's really into random esoteric guitar music.
Oh,
is it this weird garage in the back with some kind of project sticking out of it?
Definitely.
Did you say project or feet, Andrew?
Yeah, both.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this back onto topic because we can really go down a rabbit hole in this one. Mike, as you know, today's topic is the Starship Congress.
Hold on. Hold on. Can I say something special, like my people would call special needs, before we jump on that?
Okay, because I was going to throw a quote out right quick, but
okay,
go ahead.
Before you do that, I just want to ask a really stupid, terrible question. Am I supposed to be recording?
No, that is being handled on my end and the man behind the curtains end.
Okay, so I don't have to be recording for sure?
I'm 78% positive.
Buck, are you recording?
No.
Okay.
Oh wait, right. I can make sure that everything gets recorded.
Yes.
Jihad.
The NSA does not listen to this podcast.
prank podcast.
Yeah. Let's just put the tinfoil hats back on. Okay.
All right.
I decided to start posting the U.S. Constitution in my email so that the NSA would read it.
I like it.
That's only if you put this is to ISIS first. Okay. The quote I was going to read is, just pulling off Starship Congress 2013 with so many important scientists and thinkers working together was an incredible experience, says Starship Congress Strategic Director Mike Mongo.
Oh, God. You're killing me.
Strategic Director.
Oh, my God.
Sounds fancy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, I had to give you props, Mike.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. It was an amazing event. That was fantastic. We did put it together. We thought of the idea in February of 2013, and then it all went off. What month was it, Bill? Buck, was it in July?
August. The hottest month in Dallas.
Yes.
Ow.
It was one hot conference.
We only went outside a little bit, but it was amazing. I got to say, one of the high points for me was meeting and having lunch with Michael Minovich, who is the discoverer of gravity-assisted trajectories, which enabled the Voyager spacecraft to get to where it is today.
Now that's what in the common language, like I use, would be called a slingshot maneuver, possibly?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We wouldn't be where we are today without it. And he was looking at how we would launch things, and there would be a wobble. They would go slightly off from where we anticipated they would go, and then he realized it was gravity. And from that realization, that epiphany, came gravity-assisted trajectories, where we launch something with a great deal of gravity. We use the gravity to draw it in and throw it farther and faster away than we could ever have done it on our own.
Okay.
And for slowing down.
And for slowing down. Smart. Yeah, because we're definitely going to have to be thinking of that. Like when we get things to the speed that we have got them to get the New Horizons spacecraft out there and the Dawn spacecraft and the Voyager, slowing them down is actually really a big challenge.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the major obstacles for instance, of interstellar space exploration. Since we're on the subject with Starship Congress, slowing down, getting up to speed is a lot more doable than the slowing down part.
Well, that's one of the things when I was looking at one of the Icarus studies, which I asked. I think I was asking Kelvin Long about it, where the mission parameters called for separating and dropping off like empty fuel tanks and these other components of the spacecraft to lighten it. And I thought, well, look, these gigantic fuel tanks would make great braking surfaces, or could be retasked for other things. And you already invested a huge amount of fuel in getting them up to speed, and you've also got something up to speed with your craft that is the most valuable thing in interstellar space. And that valuable thing is you've got matter. You've got machined metal, and this object that you can task for something. If it's only to be as a surface, a resistive surface that will slow you down at the destination, it's still something. And I don't know how familiar you are with the development of the Apollo program, but during Gemini, one of the things that put Neil Armstrong in the top seat for Apollo 11 was his work in Gemini, where they had a catastrophic problem, and they started to get into a tumbling roll, and they thought, well, maybe they were in a docked position. They had a capsule docked with a target, And they said, well, we're not sure where the problem is. We're going to separate and hope that the problem is with the Agena target vehicle. And so they separated and found out, no, it wasn't. It was with their capsule. And now they were just a capsule by themselves without the resources that were available on this target vehicle that was kind of slowing down their spin. And they were near blacking out. They were near like the limits of people's ability with this thing tumbling in a gyroscopic way. They were near blacking out when they Neil Armstrong had the idea to use the reentry control thrusters to slow them down. So, but the thing that they learned, I mean, one thing is having a level head is vital, but the other thing is keep any resources that are available around unless you're absolutely sure that's the thing that's going to kill you. So as far as these braking and other maneuvers, I think it's a huge problem, and the Icarus mission design team was well aware of it. I think some other systems information would be helpful on their next crack at it.
Can I ask a related but possibly tangential question?
No. No, you can't. You mean a question after this one?
Right. Yeah, it wasn't just that one.
Okay.
Why Icarus?
I can answer that.
I was going to say, I was wondering that too.
I got that one.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, cool. Okay, so here's the deal. I love this actually, and we got that. I asked it when I got involved with Icarus, because I got involved with Icarus around 2011. Okay, and officially around 2012, and I said, as a person who's really sensitive to brand ideas and so I said, why Icarus? Didn't he get killed? Didn't he fall from the skies in front of his dad? And that was the lesson of the story? Well, as it was explained to me, that's how we know the story. Mm-hmm. But in fact, what happened was that Icarus fell out of the sky and he washed up on the shores of another land. The reason we don't know that is because it was a distant land. And he went off and had his own story and his own adventure separate from the one that we know and remember. With a different world, with a different people.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
It's a great. I love reboots.
Yeah.
Well, it's just most people, they hear Icarus, and if they have any familiarity at all with the old Greek stories, yeah, they're going to think, why would you name it after?
No, in fact, it's one of the best draw-ins for Icarus, because that's the first question people ask every single time.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually pretty ingenious on that one. So.
Oh yeah. So and with Icarus Interstellar, when I got to tell you, I've read it so many times in comments about Icarus. Wait a minute, you named your interstellar company Icarus, mm-hmm. and then it opens up that dialogue, and then draws people in to more than the mythology, but the ideas behind Icarus Interstellar. And the ideas behind Icarus Interstellar are that we want to have an interstellar achievement. It just go ahead.
So it's less about the flight itself and more about the complete journey, as far as the naming of it goes.
That's pretty good, man. I'm going to use that.
All right.
Yeah.
As the strategic director, I'm going to use that.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, at least they didn't call it Titanic.
Oh, that's not funny. That's not funny.
Not everybody died.
I'm gonna look.
But you can't float on a door in space.
I'm gonna look up noteverybodiedied.com right now.
Get that domain.
Now I got to do.
You guys, I bought is this one of those tangent things? I bought evilcucumbers.com today. Evilcucumbers.com. And that sounds like a bad idea, right? Evil cucumbers. It doesn't make any sense.
Actually, my son reads a book called The Magic Pickle, so no, it makes sense.
Okay, so
it's the Magic Pickle's evil cousins.
.com. So and so I had a friend today, and here in Key West, all kinds of stuff happens all the time, like Picassos and iguanas and pickles, and a friend of mine brought in some pickles and asked and gave them to me, and they're delicious, and I asked if somebody else would like some, and then this young woman in the room said, "No, pickles are cucumbers dipped in evil." And I said, "Evil cucumbers." .com. I bought it.
Salud.
And I bought it, evilcucumbers.com, which I think is the best name for a pickle company ever.
Yeah, that's
You
pretty
can
good.
have Kirk and off jokes.
If you get that started, you just have to. Biggest thing should be sell bobbleheads.
Nice. Pickle bobbleheads. Pickle bobbleheads.
Yeah.
If I could say it, I would buy it. Picklebobbleheads.com.
Pickle bobble.
Pickle
Oh,
bobblehead.
that one can go south real fast.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Here, I'll pull it.
Equality!
I was gonna say I will pull this back up.
Did I tell you guys I had a special guest coming today?
Yes, you said something about that.
Well, guess what? They just showed up.
Ah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andreas Tziolas, president of Icarus Interstellar.
Ah. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir.
Hello, gentlemen. Pleasure to meet you. You have me at you have me where you got me here, because I'm just in between locations right this moment. So this is for everyone that's watching. This is really live.
Okay, Dr. Tziolas, you don't have to drive and die. You're allowed. It's all audio. You're allowed to tear. Okay, you look great.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, I've never seen a live stream car wreck before.
Yeah, you're about to. This is like where the cops pull me off and I say I was on a podcast with these really awesome guys, and they're like, "Oh, really? Like, let me tune in and write you a citation." So,
depending on where you're at, they may not know what you mean when you say podcast.
He's in Anchorage, Alaska.
right.
Yeah, just tell them it had nothing to do with reindeer.
I'm in Key West, Florida. He's in Anchorage, Alaska. We're diametrically opposed.
Oh, no.
John's in Chile.
I'm in Patagonia. You got nothing on me, man.
Yeah. No, we got the whole globe here.
I'm so south, it's winter here.
Oh, that's a nice.
All right, Dr. Tziolas, we were just talking about Starship Congress. We were talking about how 2013 started. We were talking about the mythology of the name Icarus in relation to Icarus Interstellar. James Garrison is leading the show tonight. Paul Carr is he's like the dad of the podcast, or I think we've agreed upon he's the next door neighbor of the podcast, even though he runs the whole thing here. But he's given us control of everything tonight.
Wow. What will you do with all this newfound power?
Did you hear the evil laugh that James just gave?
Yeah. Don't give a bull rider too much power.
And by the way, it's equality night. Yes.
Oh yes, it is, isn't it?
Speaking of bull
Yes,
riders.
indeed it is.
That's the third Brokeback reference tonight.
Yeah, but James, you were the first. You were the groundbreaker.
Yeah. Well, I believe it. Just for that.
All right, so it kind of now that
There we go.
Oh my God!
Oh, that's great.
Oh my God! He's wearing a cowboy hat. Oh my God!
A black cowboy hat.
Don't ask about the Spurs.
Don't ask, don't tell. It's behind us now.
Yeah, it is the wrong season for a felt hat.
So
Okay.
since we're
And
here,
then,
since we have Dr. Andreas Tziolas, president of Icarus Interstellar, here on the podcast, the Unseen Podcast. Let's talk about 2015 Interstellar Hackathon.
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I would like to. Well, first of all, would you like to just give us a brief overview of what you're hoping to do this year?
Sure thing. So we in 2013 we had the ambitious goal of pulling everyone together to who were members of the so-called interstellar community. So this interstellar community is kind of this band of vagabonds who believe that they can work the equations and work the system almost in a way to get enough traction and to get enough work done so that we can say that we have a good goal at building a starship and traveling to another planet. So this is a really big deal. But what's happened over the last couple of years is, this community has started to solidify and take shape, and it really is what has been overused, I think, that term of a grassroots community. And it's starting to show product. So there have been some workshops and studies done where, the technologies needed to design an interstellar vessel are starting to become clearer. So there was a time, just 40 years ago when we had no idea at all. No one could convincingly answer the question of whether or not we have the capability as a human race to ever reach another star. But now we have enough to go by. So at Starship Congress 2013, we brought together the experts, the leaders, those advocates, but also the people who've been the fans on the side who have an active interest in seeing this happen, and also the curious, is this a real thing? Is this something worth my attention? And I think we put on a really fantastic, the community really made it a really fantastic conference where we explored the near, mid, and long-term achievements that would be necessary, framed as what do we need to do from now up to 20 years? What do we see necessary or coming on from 50 to about 100 years, and what do we see as long-term sort of interstellar achievements where the more sci-fi and warp drive and wormhole things kick in. So the near-term stuff would be things like CubeSats, interstellar probes. The midterm things would be fusion, nuclear powered, or maybe some very large solar sail technologies and so on and so forth. So we really framed the question, and the value of putting everyone in the same room and saying, this is where we are right now, and let's move on to the next step, was really what got everything started. So what happened subsequently, within Icarus Interstellar was we saw, the beginnings of what I like to call the serious work happening. So we recruited we started a couple of university chapters. We have 2 chapters right now, and one at Drexel University and one at the University of Miami. They are taking active part. They're participating in the research topics themselves.
I have to interject. Dr. Tziolas, is it an opportunity for other people to start a chapter at their college or university?
Certainly, yes, there is. That's a really good plug. Yeah, thank you. So you can get a hold of us by emailing us at info@icarusinterstellar.org. But I would welcome a personal email at Tziolas, Tziolas at icarusinterstellar.org. If you go to our website, my email is on my profile page.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Carry on.
No, that's okay. And just let us know that the what your interests are, where you're from, and what you intend to be working on. So Icarus is different from other space advocacy groups in in that we're not a space advocacy group. Like we model ourselves on a research organization, with the caveat that we're volunteer based. So we take advantage of the time and effort and just the intellect and the excitement that all those scientists who would like to work in such a groundbreaking field may not have the opportunity to have. So it's kind of an oddity. Like we have a combination of students, NASA engineers, professors, self-taught laymen, the complete novice who's sort of risen to the height of being an expert in thermal modeling or in fusion engines of a certain type, and so on and so forth. And everyone has a place in the team. What we want to do with Starship Congress 2015 is sort of a radical experiment, like a deviation from the norm in what we see with a lot of conferences. Because we're a young organization, we can afford to take some risks, and that's something really exciting in my book. Like to try an experiment, to see what works, to see what we can achieve as an organization, trying to forward this message and the need and the motivation for interstellar flight. So we're taking it a piece at a time. So right now, with this conference, we want to see if we can get students, specifically students, actively involved in the research topics. We have these chapters. So one of the things that is getting that's always on the mind of a student is to get a job, right? So they're graduating soon. They have this passion. That's what's been driving them to go through school. And now that they're coming out of school, many students unfortunately have to abandon their passion and just take the first job that will pay them. If they're lucky, they'll get a job where at least some of their ideologies align with that of their employer.
Like a lot of students graduate and then they don't get to go in the field. Like people pursue degrees in astrophysics or aeronautics, and they don't get to work in those fields. And you're saying exactly. that you give people the opportunity to express those professional career goals?
Exactly. Yes. Thank you, Mike. That's the unfortunate truth. If you're lucky, you're one of those people who ends up heading straight into NASA and into a researcher's position and into a researcher's position in the field that you're actually interested in. So if you're not lucky, then you're working, wherever you can find work, so to speak, as an engineer or as a scientist or physicist or whatever you are, mathematician. So what we want to do at this conference is put the two together. So let's make a conference that's dedicated to interstellar flight, where we actively involve students, where we're calling in companies to have a job fair, and we're putting them under the same roof, and we're saying, this is a conference where you're going to learn. We're going to have a proper conference, with technical papers and so on and so forth. On the first day, we're going to have a poster session where students are going to present research and ideas and on relating to interstellar flight and, life away from the Earth, starting a new civilization and migrating or colonizing another planet. And on the second day, we're going to have a job fair. So we hope that it'll click. That's why it's a great big experiment. Those companies are going to say, this excitement that these students are showing. This is what I want at my company. Like, I'm a company that's working in certain innovations. I'm working in aerospace. I'm a subcontractor, or maybe I'm a big company. Maybe I'm SpaceX or Boeing and Lockheed Martin. I want to capture this excitement from these students. I want to go back to the days when the space program was fresh, when there was, for all of the motivations of the space program, there was a lot of money, there was a lot of subcontracts, huge amount of budgets, pumped through NASA, And what happened at the time was there was all of these small startup companies that were the vendors, the subcontractors who built bits and pieces of equipment that went into the space program, from the telecommunications to the computers to the, all of these innovations, they were spun up and spawned by these small companies. But what happened subsequently over multiple years was those companies got consolidated and just bought up by bigger companies and bigger companies and bigger companies to the tune of, there was something like 54 space and aerospace companies that were subcontracted by NASA around the time of the big space race, and now we're left with about 4. So, some of the ability to innovate and to really break the norm in order to deliver really transformative innovations of the caliber of the type that we need to achieve this extremely difficult task of traveling to another star can only be done if you're of the mindset of hacking science.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right up my alley.
That was a dramatic bravo. That was the debut of the dramatic bravo here at Unseen Podcast.
So that was a long-winded answer to your question of what we wanted to achieve. It's
no, I have a question, and if I may follow up the uninhibited bravo is that are you saying that right now is the time or the epoch where we're at that place again where during Gemini and Mercury and then at the very beginnings of NASA where young companies were starting up and getting involved and contributing in ways that people hadn't even begun to imagine yet, that there's I just want to be involved and creating new companies? Is that what you're suggesting? Is that what you're thinking? I mean, and I'm not leading the question. It's just that we have somebody on our team. You and I both know Zach Fayas, who has done the created Project Voyager for Icarus Interstellar, and that is what is that project? I'm not specific on that. If you would.
Yeah. So Project Voyager is a project that is completely homebrewed and spun up from within the team. It's a solar system simulator, basically, but and an astronavigation simulator. So you put a spacecraft in orbit, it loads up the ephemeris of the solar system, and you can load up a mass and a thrust of a spacecraft, and you can have it navigate through Hoffman transfer orbits from one orbit sphere of influence to another. But we're Interstellar, right? So we're more interested in how to escape the solar system, and the programs like GMAT and the others that the National Space Agencies use, they don't have full-blown ephemeris for interstellar navigation. We don't have a space map or an ephemeris for where Alpha Centauri is and of the nearby solar system, what's called the solar neighborhood. So Zach and his team have done this amazing work. They're using Unity, and the intention is that this would be, at least a large part of the program, will become open source. But this is the first and only full-blown astronavigation system that's ever been written up by just an independent team. The implications is that we can start planning missions to other stars and really doing detailed calculations for things like navigational control. The more we get to know the local interstellar neighborhood, what's going on in the Oort cloud and so on and so forth, the more the outer solar system becomes known. the more details we'll have to build into this system. And if I could, I can return to your first question on whether, where are we right now as a civilization? Like, are we on the precipice of something new? I think that we can all sense that we're in this really peculiar calm before a storm, and that storm is going to come in the form of this. The future is going to rush up into us and into our faces in a really surprising way. So we have things like, we have enabled the individual to learn and to create in ways that is unique and unprecedented in the history of our civilization. We have access to the biggest library and the most complete and up-to-date library the world has ever known. This tool, the internet, is really something that we need to protect and to foster and to use, and to educate ourselves perpetually. Like, we need to continuously be learning things, and there's nothing inhibiting us. But the other part is the maker movement, really, which is this self-identification of people who like making things, and be it woodworking or metalworking, or using a 3D printer or a laser cutter, or all of these other rapid prototyping equipment. They're readily available now. There's hacker spaces and maker spaces in every city almost of the United States and around the world. And if you have time, like, go and visit one and have a discussion with the people that are there. They're kindred spirits. There are all these, for lack of a better word, there's all these nerds and geeks who once upon a time used to be looked down upon, right? Like, you'd be like, hey, you're a nerd. Now the nerd rules. If you're a nerd, you know how to do stuff that common humans, don't know how to do. So the nerds have inherited the world, and they're cool. They're super cool because they can do all this stuff. So when you get people able to iterate designs and upload things like that are useful, right? If we say that we're iterating a spacecraft, case in point, we're iterating an interstellar vessel. And this is a thing that's online. One person by themselves cannot solve this problem. This has to be a global endeavor, because it involves everyone and it affects everyone. We're talking about from the most beautiful rendition of the story of interstellar travel, which is, the completely utopian Star Trek. We just want to explore, and we're a nation, and we're a culture of explorers, and we just love discovering new things and unraveling the universe, to the most dire motivation, which is there's an asteroid on its way, and we've got a decade or two, and then it's all over, and we've got no way of saving ourselves, and that could happen. So if you look at a map of the asteroids that we've discovered, they're reaching like the several millions now, and the better our telescopes are, the more we're discovering. So the solar system looks like a needle in a haystack if you try to find the Earth. The fact that we have developed spaceflight but have not capitalized on it for the survival of our planet and for the pleasure of being a race of explorers, of really owning up to that, is something that is really unforgivable. And whether or not we're going to blame one national space agency or another is soon going to be a moot point, because we will be able to do it ourselves. Groups of individuals and civilians will be able to participate and to affect our future in space as a civilization. And that's right around the corner. And that's what we call the interstellar era.
Okay. I have to interject there. I know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hog the bandwidth. Did anyone else have something to say?
I had actually a quick question. It's kind of a nuts and bolts question, but Dr. Tziolas, did you mention that they're using Unity for the Voyager project?
Yeah. Yes.
That's really amazing.
Yeah. It's they've got some really cool features in there. I mean, Unity has a VR plugin for Oculus, and it's just seamless. I mean, you can plug it in and have a look around the solar system. And
you should probably say what Unity is for people who don't know.
Like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Unity, you can explain. Yeah, go ahead.
So Unity actually it's a video game engine. So they use it to build video games that work, cross-platform. So you write your video game for Unity, it works on a Mac, it works on a PC, it works on, they can do it on Xbox and PlayStation. But Unity recently went to a free model, and I'm assuming that this is part of why they're using Unity. It used to cost several $100,000 to buy a license for Unity, but now that you can download it for free, you can use it for projects like this. So that's really incredible.
Yeah, it is, and it's so flexible in its implementation, and the libraries keep on growing of the routines that people are writing for it. It's one of those things. You get into Unity, you have access to libraries of mathematical engines and like floating point calculations, which let's admit it, the hardest thing that a computer does is run your favorite video games.
Right.
So if we're sitting here and we're trying to calculate interstellar trajectories, like you can beat yourself over with a stick, try to do it in Excel, or you can write a subroutine and try to do it in Unity and have it done in literally like a tenth of the time, and visualized beautifully and rendered and all this cool jazz.
Okay. John, did you have a question?
Who was that? Was that back to me?
No, I was asking John if he had a question.
Did you say Mike?
And I thought my ears were bad.
Is it my turn again? So the thing about that I'm still boggled that a volunteer organization can. Oh, by the way, Project Voyager, the software that Dr. Tziolas, that Andreas is talking about right now, is Discover did a big news story, did a big story on it just a couple months ago. So, I mean, it's the interesting thing is as he was saying, what he said is what you said about civilians, Andreas, is that people who are not science professionals right now are creating things that are positioning them as science professionals. Like I have to say, Zach Fahas, who created that, he's a college student, and this is his field of study. But suddenly he's on main stage, and that happened because he came to Starship Congress 2013. This whole thing was facilitated by college students who took the opportunity to make the trip to come to Starship Congress, and that was when we had it in Dallas at the Tziolas Hilton. That was a conference center. That's why over the last 2 years we had much discussion over where to stage the next Starship Congress, and we decided on the first chapter headquarters of the Icarus Interstellar, the first university chapter headquarters of Icarus Interstellar, and that is Drexel University in Philadelphia. So because of that, now interestingly enough, also I have to say, I'm as you pointed out, I'm senior director. James, as you pointed out, I have to say that
do you have to say that? Do you have to keep repeating that, Mike? Honest, be honest.
Give credit where credit is due.
Okay, so this is my first podcast.
Oh, I'm happy to give him credit. I just want to see how much glory he hoards for himself.
My first podcast blush. but it shan't be my last. But when we decided on having Starship Congress at a university setting, it's amazing how the people who we brought to the first Starship Congress, they suddenly are interested in having their organizations represented to engage with the students. And so I am thrilled because of we got Zach Fahas from Starship Congress 2013, and we weren't even at a university. He had a journey to get there. He's from Canada. So he had to come to Texas, which is not even like another planet.
The Canadian will down there.
And he has to get a visa to travel. At Drexel, we have a built-in student body there who are interested in it. The faculty is interested in engaging the students that they know to be interested in space and science at Starship Congress, and we just don't even know what's gonna transpire.
That's part of the fun.
It's exciting.
That's part of the fun. It's gonna be crazy. It's really gonna be a madhouse because you've got these young kids walking up. You're gonna have these young kids walking up to these aerospace companies, these sort of button-down blue collar, engineers who have now become managers because their company told them that they need to take more responsibility. And for the last 25 years, they haven't actually done anything. And these students are going to be, hanging off of their heartstrings, basically, going, try to remember why you were interested in science and engineering in the first place, and hire me, and hire me, So it's going to be a very sweet,
I love this song.
That's how I envision it.
It was the secret of the universe.
Yeah.
He just put me the ultimate secret of the universe there.
Mike, you know him. You get to tell him.
Okay, so Andreas, everything you said came across as robot talk.
Oh, did it really?
It was very rhythmic. It
was surprising. It was kind of like techno funk from the late '90s.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So one of the things, whatever you're saying, one of the things along those lines is that remember, I remember you were standing there when it was you. There was Kelvin. Bill Kress was there. We were standing around. I think Richard Obusi and Michael Minovich, and then I think even Ian O'Neill from Discover was there, and Discovery, and then this boy walked up. He was 14. He saw that Starship Congress was taking place in Dallas. He told his mom, "I want to go to this." She bought tickets they paid for the admittance to the summit, and then he's standing there on the periphery of our group, and I see him standing there. And I spoke with him earlier. He's 14, and I say, Dr. Michael, I think his name was Cameron. I said, Dr. Minovich, this is Cameron. I can't remember his last name, and he's made this journey to come here today. He stopped the entire conversation, whatever geek-minded thing we were all talking about, and he stopped and just turned to the kid in front of everybody and says, "Your job is to move," and he pointed to his heart. And he says, "Your job is to move from here, whatever you have here, to here." And he pointed to his head. And then he signed. He presented there. He brought new work. He signed his new work. He brought. Remember those copies he passed out to everyone? That was genius.
Mm-hmm.
He gave a copy autographed and named to that young man. That young person, that 14-year-old, was changed. Do you remember that moment?
I do.
And that's
and he spent so much time with him afterwards. Just
he sat down and talked with him.
Yeah, it was fascinating. He was talking about his stories of what his supervisor thought of Einstein and some of his theories, and it was really like a grandfather-grandson almost moment. It was really something. It was really, it was a really personal thing. It wasn't something that was shared. It was, let's all participate in this.
He took him to the side.
He took him to the side, and he got this personal treatment.
This is a guy who, really some NASA heavy hitters are there, and they're jocking him, and he's like, "Excuse me, I have to talk to this 14-year-old," and that happened. These guys got to talk with. Everybody got to talk with everybody. It's the most brilliant form of engagement available to us, and all you have to do is buy a ticket.
Yeah, and just to remind everyone who Michael Minovich is, this is the person who was a PhD student mathematician at the time where they were trying to figure out how to go to the moon, and shortly afterwards, actually. And he figured out how to actually do gravitational slingshots. So he invented the gravitational slingshot maneuver, without which we would never be able to explore our solar system. So he is the father of human space exploration. He is the enabler. And he was the hacker. This is the fun part of it, of the story. He hacked math and science in order to come to the result. Like, he crawled into the computer room, the then supercomputer room, and ran his equations when his supervisors and the other people that were looking around there, the engineers, were just looking at him going, he's just a kid running some idiotic code.
He showed his work. They told him no, and he actually he got approval from Kennedy.
Yep.
He said, my work is right.
Yep.
And at that moment, either it's do or die. You're right or you're wrong. And it was him, the supervisor, and Kennedy says, this guy, him.
Yeah.
And he took his work to that level, and that's the level of attention that we were paying to space at that time. And these are the people at Starship Congress. I want you to know I was happy. As strategic director of Starship Congress. I'm growing comfortable in this role. As a participant, I was thrilled, man. I was thrilled, and there was a ton of people who are women there. It was not just guy geeks. It was geeks of every kind. There was people with disabilities. There's people with physical disabilities. There's short people, happy people, sad people. There was bald people. It was everybody. It was just a cool experience. And everybody, who's not? I don't know if everybody's excited about interstellar space exploration as I am. But going to another star system and finding possibly another civilization or another Earth,
it ranks right up there with women
and men.
Yeah, depends on what you're into.
Yeah, well, you gotta ask James about
that. Some of us are into both, so you guys take it easy.
Hey.
So let's touch on.
It's Equality Day.
Right? Yeah. So let's touch on some of that, Mike.
Yeah.
Because you said like a lot of cool things. So first of all, are we excited about interstellar exploration? Like that's what most people ask me. Why should I get excited? Why should I be excited in this? Like I actually had someone that said I like my meatloaf. I was like, what? What was that? He says, yeah, I like my meatloaf. Sunday.
Oh, I was thinking Meatloaf the singer.
Probably that
Addiction
too.
to food. I know this person. I know what he's talking. I don't know the person he's talking about, but I know exactly what he's
But
talking about.
you know, he's like, I don't care. Like, I like, you know, I have my house. I like Sundays, quiet Sundays, and like maybe mowing the lawn if I have to. And like, why should I be excited in this? You know, and you know, first and foremost, you know, if nothing excites you anymore, then if I take your meatloaf away from you, I might get a reaction. But you know, there's going to be a time, and there's going to be a time very soon where certain things are going to happen on this planet, which can only be solved by some really radical thinking. And where we are now, where we have computers and GPS and, you know, smartphones and you know, soon electric cars and stuff like that. Like that stuff came about because there was this fascination with the future that happened during the Apollo era and during that space race. And it was sort of a shot in the arm for global culture. And we haven't had one of those in a long time. And it's kind of hard to describe. Like, I don't know if I'm getting my point across, but there's every now and then a culture, a planet now, because communications and everything has made the planet one thing. We need a shot in the arm that says, you know, we need to stand up. All of us need to stand up and pay attention to something. That's not going to come from our generation. It's going to come from the next one. Okay? So we're not doing a very good job in cleaning up our planet. But the next generation, for example, if you ask any young person of age 8 and above, if you ask them if we need to protect our atmosphere, and if we need to invest in renewable energy sources, and if we need to really pursue clean energy and things like that, there's no question in their mind that this is a necessity. But the people who are making policy, you know, are old tainted people. You know, we've been trained and learned things from maybe 20, 30 years before us. So there's kind of this generation lag of what's important at any given time on our planet, and those almost genealogies of thought get crumpled together at one node when this moment happens, when everyone has to stop and take notice on what's actually going on this planet. And that happened when we explored space. It has to happen again, and it's going to happen again. Now, some other things might intervene, like we'll see robotics have a wild have their day. You know, like robotics will really join us, just like smartphones have joined us. Like we'll have robots doing things left, right, and center for humans, assisting us in various tasks. We'll have the Internet of Things be something commonplace, like anything that has electric charge going through it is going to have an IP address, and I'll be able to control it without wires, you know. We'll have things like, you know, finally and hopefully some advances in some useful conclusions from the Human Genome Project. You know, we'll solve the common cold. You know, some amazing things will happen. But how does that affect, you know, how does that affect like that big standpoint where where our civilization stops and says, where are we? An amazing thing is going to happen soon. Like, we're going to explore Pluto. We're going to finally take pictures and probe, and the scientists will take data and they'll be amazed, and everyone else will just look at the pictures and say, okay, like that's what Pluto looks like. Once we've done that, we are done exploring our solar system. Like, and what I mean by done is, obviously we haven't explored everywhere, right? Like, there's places even up here in Alaska where I live. If you start walking in one direction, you're going to walk soon. Within a couple of hours, you're going to be somewhere where no human has ever been. Like, it's that big and it's that vast and it's that sparsely populated. Like, what have we not? How much of the moon have we not explored, and how much of Mars have we not explored? We can keep on exploring that, but we've been there, okay? And to a young person, that is not interesting anymore. That's not interesting. We've been there already. And I used to do this experiment with my students, where I'd ask them, what is, like rank the planets in terms of interest and fascination to you. And every now and then, like I'd leave them think about it. It doesn't even matter. What is this? This is the stupidest exercise, right? At university, I'm ever going to do an astronomy lab, and they put 1, 2, 3, 4, and every now and then, almost in every class, someone would say, Dr. Tziolas, yes. Have we been to this planet, Mercury? Yes, we have been back to 2.
I so remember when people would say that. People say that all the time around here. They say it exactly like that.
Yeah. So what's left to explore? What will our children want to explore? We're going to build this massive map of exoplanets. We're going to start being able to probe exoplanet atmospheres. We're going to be it'll be so good soon, within the next 10, 20 years, that we'll be able to just pull up a catalog and look for signs of ozone, for example, and look at, atmospheric composition. Soon we're going to find that Eden. We're going to find that planet that is so similar to the Earth that we're going to call it, something that we love, like Eden or Paradise or something like that. It's going to have an awesome name. It's not going to be called, LGX 979. It's going to be called something. It's fantastic. And the next thing we're going to need to do is try to explore it. And that's where this whole thing is going to come and stand on its head. That there was a body of work produced by Icarus Interstellar, through these, foolish almost volunteer scientists who gave their time and stuff and gave the first leg up, and now all of this is relevant because this achievement is here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, it's really got to be the time to wrap up the Unseen podcast. I'm looking at my clock, and I mean,
we're at almost an hour 45 right now.
That was a fantastic closing. That was really awesome. I'm super happy you turned up, Andreas.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for inviting me, guys.
Yeah, and
always a pleasure.
Well, we're glad to hear from you, and next time we speak about Icarus, we'll make sure that if Mike can get a hold of you or one of us, we'll be sure to invite you along for it.
I'd be happy to come. Yeah, thank you.
If anyone has any questions about Icarus Interstellar, they can, like Andreas said, they can email info@icarusinterstellar.org, or they can go to icarusinterstellar.org, or they can go to Icarus Interstellar at Twitter, or they can Google Icarus Interstellar. There's just a number like starshipcongress.org.
It's easy to find,
yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Mike.
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind getting us the links to the Icarus and anything else that please tell me if I'm getting this right, Tziolas?
That's correct, yeah, perfect.
Okay. But anything that he'd like us to link to in the show notes?
And you know what, James? I believe that Paul Carr is going to be at Starship Congress 2015.
Ah.
Yeah.
He could do an in-person interview.
Hopefully he'll do a presentation on podcasting and science and outreach, because we've done some amazing things. I mean, I've been working with Paul for a couple of years, you as well, and it only gets better.
On me, it depends on. That's debatable.
Well, your haircut's gotten better. All right. Thanks for having me, man. I love being on the show. Thank you. And thanks, Andreas, for being here, too. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
And Andrew, I didn't really get to spend quality time with you, man, but hugs and kisses.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was good to meet you.
And Buck Field, I think, disappeared. I don't know where he went.
Yeah, I think he had to leave. So, but it was good seeing you again, Mike.
Yeah, teamwork.
Yeah.
All right, so who's doing the outro?
The outro, that would be me. So you get to listen to my Okie drawl for just a couple more minutes. So, okay, I would like to thank everybody for coming in and talking to us, starting with Dr. Andreas Tziolas. And then we have Andrew Boyter. If I get a name wrong at this point, if I get a name right at this point, I'm lucky. And then we have the one, the only Mike Mongo. And John Buckfields had to leave a little bit early. So, but I would like to thank everybody for coming in, talking to us about Icarus. This has been a very interesting podcast. Any last words, starting with Dr. Tziolas?
Looks like we lost him.
We lost him. So he gave his last words.
He gave his last words. Always better than the last meal. Okay. Andrew.
Yeah, no, this was a great episode. Really enjoyed hearing about some of this stuff. And yeah, check me out, D.A. Boyter on Twitter. It's been a pleasure, guys.
Yeah, good to hear from you. Mike, any last words?
I'm grateful to be here, James. And yeah, I am. I love Unseen Podcasts. I've become a big fan of this body of work, and thanks for hosting the show tonight.
Okay, well, I'm glad everybody seemed to enjoy it. So, okay, and then for everybody who's listening to this, if you would like to help us, iTunes reviews are always a great thing. You can also go to the Wow Signal, join us on become a Patreon, support us that way. Once again, like I said, I would like to thank everybody who came in, spoke for a while. This has been episode 12. Please go to theunseenpodcast.com for more information. Definitely, so you can check out the links to all the different speakers and to Icarus and everything else that we've discussed about or we've spoken about today. Sorry about that. The Oklahoma came through. And hopefully we be able to talk to everybody again on this topic later after the conference has gone through. And as I'm being informed, I am James Garrison. I was your host for this week. So you poor people.
Yay!
And we will see you from 1 week from today with new guests and more than likely Paul Carr as the host. So thank you again, and I hope you enjoyed this episode.
All right.